Filippo Menczer lo tenemos aquí, es el profesor distinguido Luddy de Informática y Ciencias de la Computación en la Universidad de Indiana y es el director del Observatorio en medios de comunicación y miembro y antiguo director del Centro de Redes Complejas y de investigación en sistemas complejos. La investigación que hace su grupo tiene que ver con ciencias sociales, ciencias sobre las redes, las páginas web, ciencias de datos, con un enfoque particular analizando y modelando el esparcimiento de información y concretamente desinformación, bulos y fake news en redes sociales y detectando y haciendo como una cuantificación de cuánto se manipula en las redes sociales. So, Filippo, thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
¿Cómo aplicas los sistemas complejos a la proliferación de la desinformación en Internet? So, how do you apply the complex systems, frameworks and techniques to study the proliferation of misinformation on the Internet?
Well, we use lots of different methods. We collect a lot of data from social media, all the social media platforms that we can, especially Twitter, but also, Facebook and Reddit, whatever we can. And from the data that we collect, we attempt to reconstruct the information spreading cascades. And by reconstructing these networks, we can try to tell who are the main actors, how are people exposed to information and to misinformation, and also whether there is manipulation. For example, are there some accounts likely automated, possibly social bots that are amplifying the spread of some information? And also, are there some groups of accounts that collude together that basically form these tight networks of accounts that have very, very suspiciously similar behavior, which suggests that they are controlled by a single entity? So we look at these coordinated campaigns and coordinated networks. So we apply network science techniques to extract information from these networks, whether it is to detect abuse or to detect collusion. And then at the same time, we also do modeling. So we build agent-based models that incorporate some of the features of the information diffusion. And we use them to test some scenarios, some hypotheses. Does it look like the structure of the network, for example, creates particular vulnerabilities or certain behaviors of the users, like social or cognitive biases of the actors that participate in networks, or also algorithmic biases. So the platforms rank information in a certain way, they give priority to things that are engaging. How does that affect vulnerability? So we try to use both data analytics and network analytics methods and modeling to form hypotheses and theories and about how information spreads and how we're vulnerable.
So related to this use of complex networks in social media and the use of the bias, I read that in some of your recent research works, in the most recent ones, you conclude that in social networks such as Twitter, a higher moderation of the content, like a higher quantity of restrictions of the content you may use in Twitter, somehow paradoxically leads to a situation in which freedom of speech is favored. So how do you conduct this investigation, and which are the main conclusions? How do you arrive to them?
So we look at behaviors of bad actors, and one of these behaviors is to flood the network. Okay, our model suggests that if you can control a number of different accounts and create the appearance that people are talking about a topic, then you can infiltrate a network and you can drive the information that people are exposed to. This is due to two factors. One is the fact that people have limited attention. They only see a fraction of the things that are there. And the other one is that platforms themselves prefer to show information that is engaging because that keeps people on the platform longer, and then platforms make more money from ads. And it looks like the combination of these factors, the vulnerability of the algorithms to engage in content, and also the vulnerability of users who themselves pay more attention when they believe that there are more people talking about something. This creates a vicious cycle where bad stuff can be amplified. And so bad actors can very easily do that by controlling lots of accounts and flooding the network. So if the platforms does not regulate that, then people have less access to actual information from other people and are actually flooded and controlled by the information created by the bad actors, which is not really authentic. It's not really coming from other people like them. It's not a conversation. It's just people who are trying to push certain messages. So by moderating, taking out these bad actors, the inauthentic accounts, these AstroTurf campaigns, platforms can actually allow real people to talk. And so that's the paradox that people say, oh, because of freedom of speech, platforms should not do any censorship. Of course, we don't want censorship of real people. But if you take down not real people, but bad actors and fake accounts, then the real speech of real people can emerge.
So would this be an advice for companies who are managing like social networks? Or because, for example, recently when Elon Musk talked about buying Twitter because he thinks that the content is biased towards one particular way of viewing things politically, and he said that if he owns Twitter, he will eliminate almost any restriction of Twitter.
Yes.
So an advice to the companies would be like, don't eliminate the restrictions because they favor freedom of choice in the end, freedom of expression in the end. Right?
Yes, I don't want to talk about the trial between Twitter and Musk.
No.
But yes, in general, I worry about a very general, a little naive interpretation of freedom of speech. Because if you say freedom of speech means no moderation, in reality, you're suppressing speech because you're allowing bad actors to suppress the speech of real people by flooding the network. So yes, I believe that platforms should do good moderation so that real speech of real people can actually happen on the platforms. This is not only about Twitter, but platforms may be concerned that if they take a lot of misinformation comes from actually well-known bad actors. We call them super spreaders, very well-known politicians or pundits. And when you take them down, there is a lot of backslash, and platforms get criticized for doing censorship. But in reality, when you do that, then more real voices of real people can take place on the platform, and people can actually exchange ideas, and the platform becomes more of a real marketplace of ideas rather than just the megaphone for some voices of people who abuse the platform. And so I think platforms are very reluctant to take out. They are now more aggressive at taking out inauthentic accounts, fake accounts, especially when they're just newly created. But if there is somebody who has, millions of followers or tens of millions of followers, even if they are breaking the rules of service and spreading hateful speech or misinformation, platforms are more reluctant to take them down. So our research suggests that platforms should not be shy about taking out deplatforming bad actors who abuse the platform and break the terms of service, because in so doing, the quality of information in the platform will benefit.
So what are you going to present here in the CCS 2022? What do you think, overall, what do you think about this conference? Why do you come here and what you're going to expose? And do you think it's important to share these results, and what are they about?
Well, of course, the conference is great. I'm particularly excited. This is the first conference that I attend in person since the start of COVID a few years back. So it's wonderful to be here in Palma. It's a beautiful place. And I'm going to present an overview of work by our lab, and in particular focus on some results from models, as I was telling you earlier, that tell us that there are some particular vulnerabilities of social media platforms that have to do with cognitive and social bias of the users and algorithmic biases of platforms. And so these have to do with how echo chambers are easily created online, and also with how, because of people's limited attention, you can manipulate the platform with fake accounts. And so based on that, I'm going to show a set of examples of ways in which the dynamics of attentions on social networks can be hijacked and can be hacked and manipulated by bad actors, specifically leveraging these vulnerabilities, the vulnerabilities of the social and cognitive biases of the platform, of the users, and the algorithmic biases of the platform, by infiltrating communities, and by creating fake echo chambers, and by flooding the network. And I'm going to show how some bad actors are very sophisticated and can violate terms of service and go undetected by using some techniques, like one is called follow trains, where you are able to collect lots of followers and lots of influence. And another one is deleting content. So posting a lot of content and then deleting it once it has had its intended purpose and people have been exposed to it. But then you can delete it so that there is no trace, and platforms usually don't notice that you're doing this. And in this way, some bad actors are able to flood the network and post tens of thousands of messages every day, many times more than what the maximum that the platform allows. So we're just going to show some examples of this kind of abuse.
Okay, thank you very much. That's great. Thank you for